Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It's Friday night, January 29th, 9:30 p.m. Calgary, Alberta time, and I'm happy to be here. I'm always happy to be here. And, I just welcome you to the show. We're going to do a continuation of male victims and of sexual abuse and domestic violence. We've been talking about this for quite a few weeks now in the evenings, and really there's just some great information out there regarding the male victim and male survivors, and just the issues surrounding the whole thing. I just think it's so important to bring this to light and just to really talk about it, get it out in the public eye, and as well as all abuse towards anyone, really. This is Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention. It's up to us, and I'm so glad you can join me. We're going to be on for 30 minutes. It is a live streaming blogtalkradio.com show, so it's just going out over the internet on Blog Talk Radio and anywhere where there's a player. So I'm just happy that you're here and that you can tune in with me. I have my chat room is up tonight, and I actually have a bunch of references and stuff typed in there, and websites that I thought were really worth looking at, and I found some great information. Actually, read information from those websites all like last week and the week before, and tonight we'll probably finish up. This is so important to me, as I know what it's like to grow up in a home with domestic violence and abuse, and I know what it's like for to be a male victim is just the same as being a child who's abused in a home. Doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl. Men hurt too, and so we all hear a lot of people talking about the women's issues with domestic violence because it is reported more, and also statistically, they kind of do point to the fact that there are more women who are in domestic violence, abusive relationships. So, but it doesn't matter because there's still male victims out there. And a good friend of mine, he's a survivor of all kinds of abuse and also domestic violence. So I know that this happens to people, and I just think it's so important that we talk about it. So that's what the show will be about tonight. And if you have anything you'd like to add, any kind of topic-related information or resources that you found were helpful, you're more than welcome to phone in. I have a guest call-in number that's 917-889-3736, and please do phone in. I just don't welcome any bashing or hateful stuff because this is about positive change. Really, if we're going to make any progress in the fight against abuse and prevention and awareness, we have to keep it going in a positive flow. And because for every minute we spend being negative, we're just not going to get anywhere. So that's why. And, I'm going to do a little housekeeping first, just because I don't know where the players are now. People are putting, which is just awesome, people are putting the players on their websites, and I don't know if there's children listening. And I just have to, and who knows who's listening. I just really want to make sure everybody knows that my shows are not professional. I'm not a qualified professional counselor or legal representative. I don't have any certificates, and I'm not a therapist or anything like that. I'm just a person who sits on Blog Talk Radio, who just because I really believe that it's going to take all of our voices to stop abuse. And so I started doing this just a few months ago, and just to raise my voice with everyone else who's raising their voices to say that we need to stop all abuse. I'm a student at MRU here in Calgary, and I study child rights and international community development, and I'm just working all the time to find resources and information. I know what it's like to be abused. I grew up in an abusive home, and so I thought, I need to raise my voice, and I need to be part of this movement to stop child abuse, to stop human rights abuses. So I'm just happy to be here. But I'm not a professional, and it's not a professional counseling session or professional therapy session. I always actually promote professional help. I think it's really important that people do get professional help from people that know and are trained to deal with situations like this. So, I just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page with that. And also, don't listen to the show if you're sensitive to the topics of abuse, because that's what we're covering. And I certainly don't want anyone to walk away feeling bad about the whole thing. So if you know yourself that you're very, very sensitive to the subject of abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, whatever it is, please don't listen to the show. You have the right and the option to turn the channel, and you have the right and the option, it's your right to be safe And I just want you to know that I'd rather you be safe and not listen to the show. Only if you're comfortable listening to it, and then that's fine, right? So listen at your own discretion, please. And so yeah, we'll get started. We were talking about we went we went on Wednesday night. We were discussing an article I found on Aardvark. It's www.aardvark AARDVARC.org, just like it sounds, Aardvark. And that's a great website. I really think they have a lot of good information there. I checked it out pretty good. And they had a good article on there called Abused Men, Domestic Violence Works Both Ways. Now, we covered a lot of stuff on that already, so we're not going to go back and rehash that. But, they went in to talk about, the genders of abuse. Anyone can be abused, and anyone can be an abuser, except for, can't say a small child, but the thing is that people are capable of abusing people, and especially adults, and it's horrible. And doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, if you could be either the abuser or the abused. So, quite typically in domestic violence, most people, just because of the news reports and stuff and what they see, as far as commercials and things like that, most of it is geared towards the woman victim, which I have no problem with. But I also seriously think that it needs to be, there needs to be just as much coverage for the male victim. And because men are hurting too, and this is just not right. And no one deserves to be treated like that. No one deserves to be abused. Whether you're a man or a woman, a girl or a boy, doesn't matter. It shouldn't happen, and it's wrong. And we all know what it feels like, to hurt, and men hurt too. And just so everybody's on the same page here, it's so important that we reach out to the male survivors out there. Men, they were talking about different reporting on that article on Aardvark. We went through that already, and a lot of men, just due to the sensitivity and the stigma surrounding, the fact that they might report abuse, and then people would look down on them and say, well, how come you couldn't control your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, and you can't let a woman push you around, or how could you take that from a woman, or they get all kinds of negative feedback from people. And so therefore, and even with the police are actually, I guess, coming around now to know that it can happen, and that it's not just women being abused, that men are abused too, and killed as well by their partners, right? Whether it's same sex or a woman, it doesn't matter. They suffer the same things, and so it is starting to be more, taken more seriously, which is great. But there's still a lot of work to do. And then we were reading on about the fact that on that article, you can see it if you go there, www.aardvark.com, that they have a section about the fact that the funding for the domestic violence shelters for men just isn't really there. And that, I guess, pretty much in North America, most of the domestic violence shelters are geared for women and young girls because, there's more, like the majority of women and girls needing help to get away from an abuser it's just more. The numbers are just more. The numbers are there. And the funding for it is actually based on, how many people are going to use these shelters, right? So a lot of men don't report abuse. They just keep going on in the relationship, and they just keep taking it, and it's just not right for anybody to have to live like that. I think there's ways that people could get involved in their own community to raise their voice for the male victim, and just say, look, we know there's men out here that are suffering, and it's a fact, and it just needs to stop, just right along with the women. It all needs to stop. So it was just a great article. I really thought it was good. And we were looking at that, and I wanted to kind of continue on with that article and just finish reading. Excuse me. It says here, starting or expanding services, it's important to ask for services that you want. You can probably easily access a co-ed support group, but if you want a male victim support group, ask if they have one or know of one in the area. Call programs in neighboring cities or counties and ask them too. Don't assume that they don't exist, and be certain that unless the service is requested, it's not likely to ever be offered. So if you're a male victim out there, this is their advice to you from this website, right? That you have to ask and really, ask the questions, because a lot of times it's just not offered. And if they said here, call during business hours and ask to talk to the program manager or executive director and see what would need to happen to provide services, especially for men in your area. Most programs have a list of their board members. You might come at it from that angle too. It might be as easy excuse me, as just asking for them to provide an advocate a couple of times a month for a few hours in a place you can mutually agree on. And if you happen to find a group or start a group, be sure to let all the domestic violence programs in your area know so that they can direct victims to the group. If you have had a hard time finding services, it's a safe bet that other victims are facing the same problems. So help your fellow guys in need and spread the word about availability. Don't forget that many law enforcement agencies and local office of the state attorney have advocates too. And since law enforcement often talks to victims first, letting them know that there is a group in the area to support male victims will be a huge help in getting other victims some support as early as possible. So this is just a thing, right? If a male victim, or male survivor goes out and starts a group, be sure and pass the word around, because other men will see this and they're more likely to reach out, right? They're more likely to say, hey, look what this guy's doing, or look what this group is doing for the male survivor, and then they'll spread the word, and that's just how it all happens, right? So it says participate and be counted. Few in-depth research studies which generate statistics which fuel funding, right? That's what actually gets the money, right, for these programs, right? It says few in-depth research studies have been done on the topic of male victims of female perpetrated domestic violence. Now, the National Institute of Health is funding a study at Clark University to better understand the experiences of men who are in relationships with women who use violence. If you are a man between the ages of 18 and 59, and you have been physically assaulted at least one time in the last 12 months by a current or former intimate female partner, you may be eligible to participate in this study. And it says visit www.clarku.edu/faculty/D Hines. And if you want that, be sure and let me know. To participate online, or you can call telephone number 1-888-743-5754. And there's an email address there too. There's a couple different ways you can get a hold of these guys to participate in this very important research study. Now, I don't know if it's still going on because I haven't checked that link out, but this is article, who knows how old it is. It doesn't have a date on it. But the thing is I'm sure there's other research being done, and it's so important to stand up and make your voice heard, because by doing that, what you're doing is empowering other people to do that, right? By you stepping up and saying, look, I'm a survivor, it empowers other people to get involved and to say, yeah, well, I am too. Whereas they might not have wanted to say that if they wouldn't have heard you say that. So it's so important to stand up. We have to stand up for our rights. We really have to stand up for people out there who can't stand up for themselves. I mean, this is what I feel is so important. If you know someone who can't stand up for themselves, then you got to stand up for them, because they need help. And you got to be there for these people. They need help. And I know what it's like to grow up in a bad home, and just not really looking forward to the future. And now, looking back, I mean, I've come a long way, and really with the help and support of some really good friends, And I might seek professional counseling at some time. But the thing is you do want to reach out. And there are lots of groups, and I'm going to go ahead and list some of those off. We have about 15 minutes left here. And the guest call-in number again, 917-889-3736. And, if there's anything you'd like to add, please do come on. And if you want to tell your story, or if you want to tell how you got help, or, if you need some more information, be sure and get a hold of me. So what I thought we'd cover is the National... it's the NCADV, National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. They have a neat it's a sad fact sheet is what it is. It's a fact sheet, and you can find it on their website. And they have, it's just an interesting look at the facts regarding domestic violence. It says 1 in every 4 women will experience domestic violence in her lifetime. And then it says here that 1 in 33 men have experienced an attempted or completed rape. And so people might not know that. People might not realize that out of 33 men, and this article now is, I don't know how many years old here, but the 1 in 33 men have experienced an attempted or completed rape. I mean, really, this is happening out here, people. And, 1 in 6 women have experienced an attempted or completed rape. So that tells you the difference in the numbers. But they don't really know if the numbers are right. Now, we were reading about that in, the Help Guide and different articles over the last few weeks, right, where they said that really they don't really know if the statistics are really not very good because so much violence and abuse is unreported. And so that's the problem. They don't really know, but they're just going by what they have. And just with what they have, they're saying 1 in 6 women and 1 in 33 men have experienced an attempted or completed rape. Well, that's too many. And so, you do need to make sure you get help if you're a victim of sexual assault and rape and childhood sexual abuse and domestic violence. Make sure you do get help. Some of these websites just have some great information and also some really cool workshops that you can work through. I've actually checked quite a few of them out, and I do some of them myself. And these little workshops are really cool because they help put everything into place for you. And and then if that doesn't work for you, then you want to reach out to a support group. And if the support group doesn't work for you, find another support group that is. And then maybe think about some therapy or post-traumatic stress disorder courses or something, right? Because you do deserve to have a good life, and that's just my thing. I think we all deserve to have a good life, and we shouldn't be suffering in silence. No one should suffer in silence. No one should suffer on their own and just feel like they have no one and there's no one they can reach out to. I mean, that is the saddest thing. A person, that's so sad, right? You're not alone. And I'll just tell you right now, you're not alone. There's so many of us out here. It's sad to say. It'd be better if we were just one person alone, but it's sad. But at least you're not alone, and you can get some help from people who have been in this situation, or at least a similar situation, right? And understand what it's like to go through that. And just, I find I belong to quite a few groups myself, and it's very helpful to know that these people understand what I'm talking about, where I'm coming from, because of the abuse that I suffered as a child. So I just really hope that you will reach out and stay with us, hang in there, get the support you need. And, you have to reach out because most of the time people will not reach out to you. They will not realize that you're suffering. I know that nobody, in my adult life really knew the situation that I went through and really, understood the pain I was in. And so, people don't reach out, And so I started reaching out. And as I started reaching out, I realized all these people were reaching out to me. And, like I've got a good friend, Narelle, sitting here tonight listening. And Narelle, she's down in Australia. I love you, Australia. I love you, Narelle. And I've got friends like all over the place who support me and back me up, and they're there for me. And that's what everyone should have. We all deserve it. So really, by reaching out, you can find people who really know your heart, and they've been there and they know what it's like, and they're there for you, right? So that's what I say. Just hang in there and stay with us, and don't give up. Never, 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 never give up. That is so important. Can't say it enough. And, my good friend Linda Lee here in Toronto, she's a good friend of mine, a child abuse survivor. She has lots of websites, and there's all men's groups on there too. So we'll go over some of these resources later. Yeah, it's a real issue. I think men, if you're out there and you're listening to this show, and you're thinking, man, well, I'm in this terrible abusive relationship, what can I do? You really need to make sure you're safe. If your life is being threatened, I say this to everyone on all my shows, if your life is being threatened, phone 911 first of all. Don't hesitate. If you think your life is in danger, or your children's lives, phone 911. Get some help, Get out of that abusive relationship. Don't stay in a situation where your life could be threatened and ended, because you deserve to live and you deserve to have a good life. So I would, say by phoning 911 and phoning, get some help. Make some phone calls. There's crisis lines, there's family service lines, there's domestic violence lines. Make sure you do reach out. You deserve to reach out and get the help that you need just as much as a female victim does, right? Or a child. because there's no difference. We all should not have to suffer abuse. And so, if you're a male out there and you're suffering in an abusive relationship of any kind, make sure you do reach out and get some help. And there's some great safety plans. I really think this is a really good way to get started on getting your life back, the life you deserve to have. And that is www.domesticviolence.org. And you can just go right on their website, and they have a safety plan. It's called What Can I Do to Be Safe? And the first thing on the list, of course, is call the police, right? It says if you feel you are in danger from your abuser at any time, you can call 911 or your local police. Haven may be able to provide you with a cell phone that is programmed to only 911, like a safety cell phone, right? These phones are for when you need to call the police and cannot get to any other phone. And there's lots of great tips on here for safety plan. Like if you're in an abusive relationship and you're being attacked, there's rooms don't go into the kitchen, don't go into the bathroom. There's weapons in the kitchen. There's no exits in the bathroom. There's just tips like that on there. Make copies of all your documents and have them with you, and keep them in a safe place, maybe at a friend's house or something, so that you have copies of all of the important, birth certificates, titles to things, house titles, credit card information. You want to have insurance. You want to have all that information with you in a safe place. You don't want to have to run around looking for that. If you're trying to get out and someone's, trying to kill you, it's just as important to say this for a man as it is to a woman. If a woman is threatening your life or a same-sex partner, you don't take a chance. You just get out of that environment. Excuse me. Call the police. For sure, report it. You know what? It's really sad because so many people don't report crimes against themselves, and it's because they're afraid of what will happen, and but I think they should be more afraid of what will happen if they don't call. That's just the whole issue, right? I mean, it's like if you don't call, look what can happen. It's like reporting child abuse. If you don't report child abuse, that child could die. And so it's more important to make the phone call and, have the people check out the situation for that child than it is to just say, oh, I don't know, I don't want to interfere. You could save a child's life. Well, you could save your own life by making a phone call. And that's so important to me, and it just cannot be talked about enough, right? So personalized safety plans. You can make your own personalized safety plan, and this way you'll be ready if you need to leave in a hurry. And that is just so important. And also there's other great stuff on these websites. This is from the Texas Council on Family Violence. It's a power and control wheel. It says, is your relationship based on power and control? It says, now this is just as much for a woman as it is for a man. It's for all people in any kind of a relationship, right? It's a good sort of a tool to look at. It says physical and sexual assaults or threats to commit them are the most apparent forms of domestic violence and are usually the actions that allow others to become aware of the problem. However, regular use of other abusive behaviors by the batterer, when reinforced by one or more acts of physical violence, make up a larger system of abuse. Although physical assaults may occur only once or occasionally, they instill threat of future violent attacks and allow the abuser to take control of the man or woman's life and circumstances, right? It says, the power and control diagram is a particularly helpful tool in understanding the overall pattern of abusive and violent behaviors, which are used by a batterer to establish and maintain control over his or her partner. Very often, one or more violent incidents are accompanied by an array of these other types of abuse, and they are less easily identified, yet firmly establish a pattern of intimidation and control in the relationship. And we know this can happen to men too, just as well as women, right? There's emotional abuse, isolation, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using children, right? Economic abuse, there's male privilege, female privilege, there's coercion and threats, physical violence, sexual violence. I mean, it's just all, it's horrible and it's sad, but it's all about control. And the abuser is trying to control you, whether it's a man or a woman. They will do whatever they have to do and whatever they think they can get away with to control you. And a lot of it is, I don't know why people do that, if it's just, mental problems or some sort of emotional problems, but whatever the problem is, you don't deserve to live that way. And so that's why it's so important to make sure that you get help. And emotional abuse is just as damaging as physical abuse, because emotional abuse really cuts into your heart, and it's hard to cope, and it's hard to feel good about yourself when you're being emotionally abused, right? It says here, I'll just change the gender, putting him down, making him feel bad about himself, calling him names, making him think he's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating him, making him feel guilty, right? These are some things that abusers do, abusive women or abusive male partners might do for, emotional abuse to really make you feel bad about yourself and make you feel like you don't deserve anything, right? Isolation, controlling what he does, controlling who he sees and talks to, and what he reads and where he goes, and limiting his outside involvement, using jealousy to justify actions and stuff. So isolating you from your friends and from your family, right? Keeping you away and apart from them so they can do what they want to do to you, right? Minimizing, denying, and blaming, making light of the abuse and not taking his concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, and shifting responsibility for abusive behavior, saying he caused it. And you see this with parents too, like later on with children who are reconciling with their parents, trying to, like for instance in my case, there was a lot of denying, minimizing, oh, it wasn't that bad, or denying, well, that never happened, or blaming, well, it was your fault, that kind of thing happens, and it's because people don't want to take responsibility for their actions, and they really actually did. I think in my case, my parents actually were not sorry for what they did, so they certainly didn't want to admit to saying they were sorry. So it's just unfortunate. It happens, and it's sad, but we certainly didn't deserve it, and you don't deserve it. And so if you're in an abusive relationship right now, make sure you reach out and get some help. But I like these power and control wheels, and you see them on other websites too, and you can see it right off of the Texas Council on Family Violence. Just type that in, Texas Council on Family Violence, power and control wheel. You can just type it in, power and control wheel in your browser, and that'll come up. So you want to get a safety plan. You want to recognize the signs of abuse. You want to get help. You're just as valuable. You have every right to protection and every right to a good life that a woman has or a child has. So if you're a man out there listening, just remember this. And there's some great websites. I'm going to read these out now. Aardvark. That is a great website on abuse, rape, and domestic violence aid and resource collection. There's information on their victims' assistance and recognizing abuse, reactions to abuse, aspects of abuse, everything, right? You can get that info at www.aardvark.org. And then there's Little Warriors. This is for children who are sexually abused or adults who were sexually abused as children. www.littlewarriors.ca. And they have everything on there, what is child sexual abuse, and all kinds of good stuff, prevention and adult responsibility. Then there's Points with Purpose. This is www.pointswithpurpose.com, and this is for female and male survivors and their supporters. That's a great website, and I would check it out. I'm actually a member over there, and you want to check that out. It's for males and females, right? Here's 1 in 6, and this is kind of linked to the Jim Hopper. Jim Hopper, he's great. He's got a great website, and he's quite knowledgeable about abuse. You can find 1 in 6. That's www.oneinsix.org. Their mission, the mission of 1 in 6, is to help men who have had unwanted or abusive sexual experiences in childhood live healthier, happier lives. It says 1 in 6 men are estimated as having had unwanted or abusive sexual experiences before age 16. So they have everything on there, from finding help, recommended books, resources, community outreach. I would highly recommend it. There's ASCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a Morris Center program at www.ascasupport.org. Great information on there. They also have a Survivor to Thriver workbook, which I'm working through right now. Great stuff. Men Are Survivors too, resources for male and female victims. This is on Facebook. John Schmidt, president and founder. He's my good friend, and he has been through the mill. This guy is a great guy to talk to. Men Are Survivors too, resources for male and female victims. If you can't find it, get a hold of me, and I'll get you that information. There's just so much. I could just keep going. If you need more information, please get a hold of me. I'll be back on Sunday. I'm glad you can be here, and I hope you got something out of this show. And if you have any interesting references or stuff that you think people need to hear, please let me know. Referrals for great websites that you know of, and I'll just get them out to everybody. Take care, everyone, and I'm glad you joined in. And I'll be talking to you all again Sunday, 8 o'clock in the morning, and also again 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.